Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop, and welcome to part 8 of the handmade electric bass guitar project. Okay, so in the previous episode I had gone over the whole body with filler and then sanded it all back, ready to spray with primer. And I did say that once I'd put the primer on, I put on 2 or 3 coats, fairly thin coats, and I said that once I'd done that it would show me any bits I'd missed with the filler, which it did. However, what's happening is when I'm putting the primer on, it's making the wood expand and basically opening up all the grain. So yeah, once I put 2 or 3 excuse me, 2 or 3 coats of primer on, all the grain opened up over the whole body, top, back and all the way around the sides, which meant that I had to go over the whole thing again, all of it, with filler again. So that's what I've done, and I've tried to, smear it on as thin as possible, but obviously covering all of it. I've had to fill it all again. I'm going to have to sand it all again, then prime it again before I actually get to putting the top coats on. I'm going to say right now, unless I absolutely have to, I am not making any more bodies. I'm going to buy the ready-made ones and just tweak them as necessary, because this has been an absolute freaking ball ache. I have already spent way too many hours on this, sanding and everything else, and I've still got several more to go yet, because I've got to do it all again and then prime it again, and hopefully it's okay then, and start painting it. But okay, this guitar is for me, and I'm taking extra time to make it really, really nice, and I hope it does turn out nice after the amount of hours I've put into this. But unless somebody commissions a custom made body, I'm not doing this again, because it's just way too time consuming. Like I said, I've spent way too many hours on this already, and I've still got to do more. So I've covered the whole thing in filler again. Now on the back, I've already started doing the sanding, and you can probably see it's got a bit of a sheen to it, because it's quite smooth. But I think this gives you an idea of what I'm up against. You can just see how much open grain was exposed, and I've had to fill it all again. And like I said, over the entire body, back, top and the sides. This sanding is not quite finished yet. I've taken off the bulk of it, and actually I started with my electric palm sander, and it basically ate straight through the primer straight away. So I thought, no, I can't do that. So I've had to do all of this by hand. Oh God. And I've started on the sides as well. Still a bit more to do yet, and I've got to do all of the top as well. The sanding I've done so far is probably, I don't know, an hour and a half maybe. Plus all the sanding I'd done before. I've spent hours and hours literally sanding this bloody thing, and I'm fed up with it. I want to get it done. So today for me, in real time, it's Saturday the 3rd of January. By the time you see this, it's going to be well into January. So today is Saturday. I want to get the painting of this finished this weekend. So, i.e. the rest of the primer and the top coats in white and the lacquer. Ideally I need to leave it, sort of 4 to 6 hours between coats, but I want to get this finished this weekend, the painting at least, because then I've got to put it aside for like 2 weeks to allow the lacquer to properly set and harden before I put the thing build the thing together, put it together. So I want to get this finished this weekend, so that then leaves me 2 weeks to, you know, to let the lacquer harden properly, and then on the after 2 weeks, on the Monday, when I'm not teaching, we're not open, I'll start to build the thing, hopefully. Oh, but really, this has been such a ball ache, really has. You know, regardless of how it looks after I've done this and primed it again, even if it has all opened up again, I ain't doing it again. I'm just not. I've had enough. It will be a lot better. It probably won't be perfect, but it will be better. I mean, if I tried to paint it as it was without doing this again, it would have looked horrific. You know, all of the grain popped open, all of it, all over the whole thing. So I had to do this, and like I said, I don't know if you can see how much, you know, you can actually see the grain where it's white. So yeah, all of the grain opened up, so I'm having to do this again. It is what it is. So yeah, like I said, I tried it with the palm sander first, and that was only with 240 grit, and it just went straight through the primer, so I thought, no, I'm not doing that. So I'm having to do it all by hand, and I'm actually using a coarser grit of sandpaper. I think it's 120 I'm using, and I said on the palm sander it's 240, so it's basically twice as coarse. But because I'm doing it by hand, I've got a bit more control over it. So that's what I'm doing now. And like I said, I've got a lot more to do on this yet, but let me just show you what I'm doing initially. So I've got this well-used 120 grit sandpaper. Yeah, it is. You can't see the one, but that is 120. So, you know, like I said, I tried to smear this on as thin as possible to give me as little sanding as possible to do, but, you know, I had to make sure I filled in all the gaps. And, you know, some parts of it, particularly around the edges, is pretty thick. But I have tried to keep it all as thin as possible. So, you know, it's just a case of rubbing back or sanding back the filler without taking the primer off. And I've actually found, which is counterintuitive, that it's better to go across the grain rather than with the grain. Now, I know you are supposed to sand wood with the grain, but effectively I'm not sanding the wood, I'm sanding the filler. So yeah, I've found it works better actually going across the grain rather than with the grain, so that's what I'm doing. And like I said, I don't want to remove the filler, the primer. I want to remove the filler but not the primer, because I am going to have to prime it again. It's already had 3 or 4 coats, so another light coat or 2 of primer should be good enough once I've got it sanded really smooth. You know, so I've got a lot of work to do before I'm at that stage again, but such is life. But yeah, like I said, unless I get a commissioned build for a custom body on a guitar, I'm not doing these anymore. I'm going to buy the ready-made bodies. They will always need a little bit of tweaking, you know, a bit more sanding and all the rest of it. But, you know, because I am going to build some more electric guitars for sale in my shop. And, you know, it's going to be much more cost effective as far as time is concerned to buy the ready-made bodies. I might even buy the guitar kits that got everything that you need. And, you know, just build them from there so that I can get some stock in the shop for relatively cheap. Yeah, because, you know, like I said, I've spent so many hours on this already. I don't want to be doing this for guitars that I'm going to sell for, you know, sort of $100, equivalent to like $100 or so. You know, I don't want to be spending hours and hours doing this. I just don't. So that's what I'll be doing in future. In fact, that's what I will do. I'm going to. I've still got some spare necks too. One for a Strat style guitar, and one in the same style, and it's the same length, but as short scale bass. So those are the necks that were on my double neck that I made and subsequently pulled apart. So I'm going to use those necks, and I'm going to buy some ready-made bodies and, you know, all the components and hardware that I need to build those. And then after that, I'm going to buy guitar kits. They're not high quality, but I'm not going to be selling them for a high price, because I can probably put them together, depending on how I do the finish, in, you know, like a week or so. Some of them I will paint, some I will, you know, oil or just lacquer if the natural colour is good. A few other methods I might use, but I want to try and save as much time as possible. So I will buy the kits and make those, and you know, save a bit of time, save a bit of money, get some stock in the shop. Okay. I wish I had some more of this, but I've practically run out of this 120. I'll have to see if I can get some more. So I'm having to use just small pieces like this. It's okay. Like I said, I've got more control this way anyway, so it's fine. Just doesn't last very long. Yeah, the edges are proving a little bit more difficult because when I recoated the whole thing with filler, the edges tend to get a bit of a thick layer on them. But the filler I'm using is actually wall filler, it's not wood filler. But it works at least as well, if not better in my opinion, and it's really easy to sand. Much easier than wood filler, which dries, you know, as hard as wood. But this stuff is much easier to sand, it's quicker, and it ends up really smooth once you've done it properly. So that's what I use. I use what we call in the UK poly filler, wall filler. But it works really well. I'm happy with the results it gives. So why not? I mean, the other downside of having to do this again as well is that all the screw holes are getting filled with filler. I'm trying to keep that to a minimum. You know, once I've gone over it, I get a toothpick and just dig into the holes to remove it. Because the problem is, if there's too much filler inside the holes, and then when you paint over it, you know, you're painting over little clumps of filler. So if when you put the screws in, it digs out that little clump of filler, it's going to take the paint with it. So, you know, I want to minimise how much filler is inside the screw holes, so that I don't lose any paint. Just one thing after another. So, you know, I'm going over this now with 120 just to get the bulk of the filler down. And then again, once I've finished, I will go, you know, up to 400 grit, 600, 800, something like that, until I get a really, really smooth finish, ready to prime again. It is what it is. You know, if this was a guitar for sale or a customer's guitar, I would have got pretty fed up with it by now. Well, I am fed up with it, but it's for me, so I want to make it good. Not that I wouldn't for a customer, don't get me wrong. But, you know, now that I've committed so much to this already, I might as well, you know, finish the job properly. Because I was really, really happy with how the body turned out, the shape and the contouring and all the rest of it. Really happy. So, it wouldn't be a very good idea to quit at this stage. Basically, once this is painted and dried, it will be then be time for final assembly. And the electrics, yay! Now the electrics will be simple enough. It's basically Telecaster electrics, but with humbuckers, which doesn't make any difference as far as the wiring is concerned. You wire up pickups the same, whether they're, you know, single coil or humbuckers. So that's not going to be a problem. Right, so you can see what's happening there. You know, it's getting there. I'm not going to film any more of this. A, it's boring, and B, I need to get on with it. Okay, so what am I going to do? So I'm going to finish that off camera, all of the sanding, starting with 120 and then going up to finer grits. Then I'm going to spray it with primer again, probably 2 light coats, and regardless of what it looks like then, it's then getting the top coats, because I'm not doing any more of this filling and sanding. My hands are killing me, so you know, I'm not doing any more of that. So in the next episode, I'm not sure yet, you'll probably see it either fully coated with primer or the white paint, depending on how far I get, how much I want to do off camera. But you know, like I said, once the paint's on and it's had time to dry and set properly over a couple of weeks, we're pretty near the end. You know, it's final assembly, wiring it up, you know, testing, setup, all that kind of thing, which may still be 2 or 3 episodes. I'm not sure yet. So this is already episode 8. I envisage we're going to have probably a dozen episodes on this project. Maybe less, maybe more, I don't know. But that's the way it's going, so I'll have to crack on with this, and we will see you in the next episode. In the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.